Diyos maray na aga sa indo giraray mga tugang, yaong kami sa pagpadagos kang programang Rakdag. Ako si Father Francis, kaibahan ko si Father Philip, and yaon na kita sa Season 2, Episode 2. And so, Father Philip, katatapos lang kan sa tuyang selebrasyon kang solemnidad kan ni San Jose, na pinagdeklarar nga di kan sa tuyang Santo Papa na Year of Saint Joseph, among many other things. Kumusta si celebration duman sa indong parokya, Father, kang solemnity?
Maray man, and actually, I introduced to the people the Confraternity of Saint Joseph.
Wow.
The
Amazing.
Confraternity of Saint Joseph, bako siyang organisasyon.
Mhm.
Everyone is welcome, lalo ng mga tatay.
Mhm.
No? Ang inot kong ano sa inda, requirement, no membership fee. Yung mga po,
Very good. Very enticing.
enticing. Paano mo ma-encourage ang mga tatay, mga ordinaryong mga paraoma, duman, mga obrero, mga simpleng mga tatay na iba-ibang educational background. Mayo nin uniform, basta disente. Basta disente ang sulot ninda, magjansinda. Kaya kami, Father, we have organized Confraternity Cofradia de San Jose na ang mga tatay na duruman every first Saturday of the month.
Okay.
And then, uga kaming tulong dynamics, praying, napon kami sa devotion kay San Jose to promote. Tama yung nagpo-promote, Father, ng devotion kay Saint Joseph. Sabi ko, dapat ang mga tatay kang parokya. Praying, and then sharing. Minsan nahiling ko kaya, Father, ang mga nagsisharing, pulong ng mga nanay kang parokya sa malain-lain na religious organizations. Ngunyan, mayan mga tatay nagsisharing. Manunungod sa virtues ni Saint Joseph, na explicar ko, or manunungod sa experience ninda kan pagiging tatay. Okay? And pangtulo, acting or call to action. Kada bulan, i-concretize mi itong nanodan mi duman. Pag uli ninda garo, Legion of Mary, o gasindang substantial work connected duman. Yan. So, pag-introduce ko, yan ang kapistahan ninda, March 19, Confraternity de Saint de San Jose.
Very good, very good. Hindi sa parokya, may pa kami kayo ni Father. Pero ito kami ng confraternity man of St. Jubileus.
Okay.
And ang yaw dominant manggirari ang mga babae. Kasi it's more inclusive. Pero I think ang mga leaders will be mga lalaki man. So hopefully we could replicate itong confraternity ni St. Joseph. And ang focus mo talaga duman sa mga ama. Because sabi nga ni Ken, the solemnity is about Joseph as the husband of Mary.
Kasi po, baga, Father, ang BEC has always a preference towards the poor and the grassroots.
Yeah.
Kaya itong mga tatay na minsan masakiton man darahon ta may trabaho. Kaya dapat ito bagang ibang way kan pag-invite o pag-encourage sa inda na maglaog sa simbahan. Kaya maduman minsan naka-short, hali pa sa uma. But madadangog mo ang sa indang mga sharing very kaya ito ang approach ko dumana. Pwede man na masasabi ng pang BEC approach daw.
Wow, amazing. So yan po ang sarong ehemplo kan pagselebrar kang taon para kay San Jose. And for all you know, ang taon-taon ini pano-pano ning mga aktibidad ning hulita sarabay-sabay. We are also celebrating 500 years of Christianity dito sa Pilipinas. And kang nakaaging episode na pag-urulayan nga to, more on historical. Binalikan nga to sa mga nakaagi, more on historical dimension kang celebration na ini. And this episode, baot niya na mag-focus duman sa pastoral, very pastoral and very practical way of celebrating this 500 years of Christianity.
Speaking of the pastoral, kaya nga ni kan nakaaging solemnity si St. Joseph last Friday, nagpaluwas ng pastoral statement ang gabos ng mga Bicol bishops. May title, hali sa inspiration na Go to Joseph, Genesis chapter 41 verse 55. Ite ad Josephum ang sa indang pastoral statement.
Para po sa mga taga St. Joseph School, mga co-alumni ko, maugmang kapistahan. Nagselebrar man ako kung kasugba ng misa sa inda, kaiba ng mga teachers and admin. So, greetings to all of the teachers and the sisters also of St. Joseph's School. So, tama si sabi ni Father, I can still remember when I was a kid, the same slogan or dictum na ite ad Josephum. And sabi ni Father Philip, hali nga na ito dungan sa Genesis. But the Joseph that it was being referred to is not the father of Mary yet. Ay, no, not the husband of Mary yet. But Joseph, the son of Jacob.
So our bishops use a typology, no? And this is a biblical interpretation using types of the Old Testament and then apply it to the Joseph,
New Testament.
the prototype, no? The
Prototype.
first.
Okay. Okay, so Father Philip, dakulon naka-line up ng mga aktibidad for St. Joseph, I'm sure kadako dyan, for 500 years. And then of course, recalling also itong sinasabi niya itong year of Missio ad Gentes. So, ang observation ko lang, Father Philip, you have to validate this because this is a sharing of faith, this is sharing of opinions. Dahil man daw medyo celebratory ang mood, medyo may pakadikit na triumphalism sa the way we celebrate na, marking the milestones, marking our legacies. Dahil man daw napapano ang gabos na celebration kang araw ka ng espiritu na probably we could be forgetting some important things. Like, instead of focusing also on the triumphs of this church, probably pwede naman i-explore itong saan kita nagkulang o arin ang mga date pananyato na i-explore ng mga areas kan sa tuyang pastoral ministry na tibaad magayon i-focusan mo niya na taon. Ano sa hiling mo, Father Philip, kang observation mo?
I read a book, a great author by the name of Robert Greene. He is the author of The Laws of Power and the Laws of Human Nature. And he said that sometimes when we talk about success, the danger is that we forget that there are areas of improvement. That's why he said in one of his talks in the Google, in the Google there are great speakers there in the YouTube and TED Talks, but in the Google he said that we have also to master our dark sides. So if our mastering our dark side, our limitations, no, so that in a way we can move forward through. Like when you mention about celebratory, even in the song of the 500 years, no, it's really a list of all the video clip is the list of all the momentous and glorious moments that happened in the history, and they're all factual, they're all valid. But in between that glorious moments, inclusive of the pandemic that we have now, when the bishop rightly cited that, if I may quote from their pastoral statement, I wrote about it there because it's beautiful. The bishops are calling us towards discernment. When he said, in the year of mission, I will quote from our dear Bicol bishops, in this year of mission, when we are challenged once more to spread the good news, we ask ourselves how we can take up that challenge when our movements are restricted. You see, the bishops are very realistic in the way, in talking about the pandemic, when we have to cover our faces with masks and shields, if only to limit physical interaction and observe safe distance from one another to keep the virus from spreading. So let me continue. The past months, though we have already taught us that such restrictions cannot prevent meaningful dialogue, and if I may add, meaningful discernment, that we can be socially close and spiritually intimate even if you are physically distant. So if I may say that, I think what happened
Sa Bicol, sa ano?
sa Bicol, na ining nangyari sa Tuya na pwedeng panalimingan niya to si San Jose sa paghurop-hurop, pag-discern, kung taano nagkaigwang arog kaining global situation ng pandemic na nagkasuruhayan kita. As in, masakit na maray ang trabaho ng evangelisasyon, ng kadakol-dakol ning mga paagi. Sabi kang obispo nagruluwas na creative ways of spreading the good news. Kaya lang siguro para sa kuya is it could be a way to dampen our celebratory uh, expectations na talagang igwang mga challenges. Kasi yun ang kapot ko nga ni, hindi sa 500 years na ni, ano man ang mga challenges na inagihan ka, as in inaagihan ka pa mo niyan.
Magayon siguro pag-uralayan tango niya na aga, Father Philip, na an alternative way na para mag-celebrar kita. Okay. Siguro mayo sa tone kang celebration, but in a meaningful way of paggirumdum kan mga agi-agi niya to. Taday man kita makakaabot sa tuktok ang bukid na ini kundi kita nag-agi ng pagsakit sa pagsakat. Pwede ta siguro po ng Father Philip sa konteksto kan sa tuyang parokya. Ang sa tuyang parokya sinasabi na ang ideal nga ni kang PCP2 is ang the church should be a community of disciples. So, sharing in the mission of Christ. So, i-focus na lang duman sa komunidad nin mga disipulo. Gura no katotoo ining sinasabing komunidad na ini. Talagang totoong igwa kita ning komunidad para sa gabos na populasyon kan sa tuyang parokyano o tibaad ang sa tuyang naaabot sa na, like let's say let's give it a 10%, that's 10% kan sa tuyang populasyon. But how about the rest of the 90% of the population? Igwa kita ning paagi para maabot sila o tibaad kontento na kita duman sa 10% kan sa tuyang parokya. Tibaad syempre kita we did not have a school for pastorship. We have some few units sa seminary, a very ideal, very theoretical na pastoral ministry, but the way we absorb or nanudan itong mga leksyon sa pagiging kura para ko mga minanata sa naman, and probably we give credit to a lot of pastors sa mga nagkairinod sa tuya, very salutary ang ginibo na patibaan pwede tapang matawan ng attention itong mga 90% na day inaabot kan bagting kang kampana. Can we say na igo kitang tunay na komunidad o komunidad sina yung nagkakapira?
Okay, as I see it, the theme of our 500 years is Year of Missio Agentes. And this Agentes, sabi ko nga ni katong inot na episode, are they referring to the nations who have not received Christ yet? Or are they referring to our parishioners who have not entered the church or parish church yet? So I'm referring to the unchurched. I can only speak for myself. In the parish, we have 3 barangays, 10,000 populations. The minimum attendance of church goers during Sunday more or less is 1,000. So it's 10% of the total population. Now I have 90% the person who does not enter the church or rarely or even once in a blue moon that enter the church. Now, if the theme is Missio Agentes, could it be that now there is a two church existing in my parish? The church of the elite that is only 10%, and the church of the unchurched. The church which is now referring to the Agentes, the 90%. Now, who are the members of my pastoral council? They are the people who are familiar with me and who are there always attending and attending every Sunday. So the members of the parish pastoral council and other religious organizations.
Yeah, very good itong point out mo, Father, na Missio Agentes. So I think the way I understood it is that could be divided into yung gentes. Like, well, strictly speaking, yung gentes is to the nations. But we also refer to the Missio ad intra na sinasabi ta nga ni, let us first evangelize the core before we go to the crowd. And kang nakaaging simana nagtao ko ning recollection sa Kasafi, sa Caritas Caritas staff, and I asked Cardinal Tagle to give a message to the staff, and sinabi niya, yeah, Caritas is marked by professionalism, but remember, ang professionalism is nothing without the formation of the heart. So it's like, bago kita magluwas, probably it's best to look inside ourselves and to look inside our local church and what are we missing? Ano ang pwede pang ma-improve dito? Ano ang mga blind spots na kadaklan na beses dito talaga na because they're all blind spots na siguro natud na kita duman sa dating perming ginagibo, we follow the liturgical calendar, si makaabot tigdi, okay, si day maabot, and then siguro next time, but we forget the next time. So, and then recalling sa mga anthropologists, a British anthropologist na si Robin Dunbar, or I don't know how to pronounce that one, but he says, ang brain kang sarong primate, sabi niya, is only capable of maintaining 150 meaningful relationship. And it's based on his experience and experiments. But there's some truth in it, but if it's not the whole truth. Kasi sa parokya, can we really know? Diba, if sa parokya, we have 25,000 parishioners. Can I really know 25,000 or at least half of them? I cannot. And so, how are we addressing this blind spot na for so long a time, yaw naman talaga actually. And have we taken efforts to address this? I mean, conscious and intentional efforts na pwedeng gibuhon sa tuyang mga parokya.
I forgot the anthropologist that you mentioned. How
Robin Dunbar or Dunbar?
How many we call it
150.
circle of friends or circle of influence can we manage?
150 meaningful relationships.
I forgot there's a book about the leaders eat last, and he mentioned about that only we can only manage around friends around 140 or 150 something. But I think it's also true biblically sa Bible na you can only catch 120 fish. When they throw the net, they through the net,
okay.
And they catch different kinds of fish. So I mean, so you can only manage he told the core group, the Jesus disciples, you can only manage 120.
Imagine. And that is corroborated by experiments also. During the 18th century, sabi niya, parish records would reveal that there are more or less 150 parishioners in a village.
Ah, yeah.
So imagine, this is the 18th century record. So I think we have to look into this, sa hiling ko. Probably a meaningful celebration of the 500 years of Christianity would mean focusing on the 90%, and then siguro we find ways to address the unchurched in this way.
Perhaps that is the reverse of the parable of the lost sheep.
True.
Why when the shepherd was looking for the one who was strayed, perhaps it is the 99 who is strayed, because we are always with
Only 1%.
because we are always with the 1%.
True.
So therefore, it's about time that this we call it the mask without the face. This is the faceless mask, which we call still crowd and not congregation.
Yep.
So how do we really go to the unchurched, and how can we really convince them again? So how will we go? That is, I think, Pope Francis' ecclesiology of going to the peripheries.
Yeah.
Because the peripheries are really greater. The majority are greater
than those in the center.
Those in the center.
Yeah, and I think that is precisely the thrust of our archdiocese nowadays. Now, to adopt one way of addressing this is through the basic ecclesial communities. Of course, that is not limited only to BEC. And BEC is also accumulative, and it is open, very fluid in its different inspirations, different models. But the important thing is in mindset na we find ways to address the 90%. And I think one meaningful way of addressing this is to create smaller but genuine communities with the help of our lay people, with the help of our pastoral leaders who can practically replicate our shepherding roles down to the grassroots. And so, Father Philip, very magayon ang exchange of opinions and of course ito mga na-experience niya to. I'm sure kadakol i-share pa sa tuyong mga co-pastors dito sa tuyong archdiocese, um, different experiences. We are inviting them to join us. You can send us your experiences, email us or message us.
Or
So you
post
can also,
comments.
or you can also be the guest of Rakdag for the following episodes.
You mentioned about the mission of going to the gentes, the people, the greater people, the crowd, or going to the core, going to the core and looking into ourselves, especially those who are in the who are part of our the the main community. So we can see now that even in the life of discipleship, you said community of discipleship, Jesus never sent his disciples without first undergoing such kind of formation within. No? They are disciples. No? That's the meaning of the Greek term metastetai, to be with. So that's the root, Greek original root of discipleship. Before apostolos or apostolate, to be sent, before being sent. So the challenge for me is that in the parish, in the particular parish, we are giving lots of formation program, but who are really the beneficiaries of this? Sometimes redundant, the same people who are the members of this religious organization, overlapping, and there are even some kind of you call it duplication of all the ministries.
Yeah.
So
I think we have to move forward from that mindset, and then of course comfort zone ta naging comfort zone ta niya, or okay na ako igo akong aro kining number of people within my fold and kasurug ko, siguro going beyond that. Siguro after this break, we could discuss further Father Philip ini manunungod sa pag-train sa puso kan mga leaders niya. Pagbalik po niya. Sa ikaduhang parte kan sa tuyang episode 2, Rakdag. Small talk about big things in life. And so, bago kita magpadagos Father Philip, siguro pwede tang i-greet daw, medyo late ning kadikit sarong aldaw. Itong mga parokya na nag-celebrar kan sa ilang kapistahan ni San Jose. Siguro po, pwede kong puunan sa muyang SKK San Jose. Happy Fiesta po sa Indogabos.
And parish sa San Jose, partido kay Father St. Joseph Parish, kay
Father
Father
Wilfred
Wilfred Almoneda,
Mm-hmm.
kay Father Russell Plitado sa St. Joseph,
Sa
the
Palsong
work
Bula.
Palsong Bula. Happy Fiesta, Father Russell.
And I think nagkaigwang dedication ng altar sa Tagliliog. I think the Archbishop was also there a few days ago. So sa Indo po Gabos, and of course sa St. Joseph School, Happy Fiesta sa Indo. And so pinag-uulay mi kasubago some of the blind spots or siguro area for improvement na pwede natong ma-address while celebrating this 500 years of Christianity. Ang napag-ulayan ni Father Philip, itong manunuhod sa mukna ning komunidad na sincero, asing totoo na igwaning pagmangno sa lambang saro. And sabi ta, we need more lay leaders to be able to achieve this. Ikaw, Father Philip, how do you train your lay leaders? Sabi ta about formation of the heart. In a concrete way, in pastoral manner, paano mo pigpoporma sila?
Of course, I have inherited as a parish priest the basic structural form of governance in administration in the parish, pastoral PPC, parish pastoral council, monthly meeting, and the meetings of the different religious organizations and associations ministry. But in response to the 90%, the neglected 90%, and the 10% who are always present in my parish, kining pagmukna ako kan confraternity of St. Joseph, Cofradia de San Jose, nahiling ko na naging appealing siya sa mga itong day nagraralaog sa simbahan.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense na binaago ko itong mode of invitation, itong na sabi ko ang member kay ini mayo ning membership fee, mayo ning uniform, okay? Freely they can come during first Saturday of the month. After work, 4 to 6 p.m., open to all the tatays of the parokya, na willing na mag-promote kang devotion ni St. Joseph, mga G, kay iba si San Jose, magheras, kan sa ilang experience bilang tatay, kay iba si San Jose, as in, maggibo ning konkretong aksyon base sa ilang pinagheras-herasa. So, nahiling ko na without presenting the requirements and the qualifications, it captures the hearts of those who rarely come to the church, in the sense na they can relate to Saint Joseph as the father. And natawaning kahulugan itong pagkapadi ninda ay pagkatatay ninda, and nagkaigwanin avenue. So I believe ang training minapoon sa, sabi ko nga ni, sa core with them as a potential leaders, mapoon mo na sa pag hurup-hurup sa diri nindang estado.
Sabi nga ni Ken, may
go.
burabod.
Oo, burabod.
May burabod, igigiya mo sinda. So you will help them siguro sa interpretations kang scriptures. Tanganing pagsakdo ninda sa burabod, igos sindang maihiras duman pag uli nila sa indang harong. I think that's the concept kang ining regular meeting. How often ka mo, Father, nag-meet in yung confraternity?
Ang confraternity as actually once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Pero 2 hours yan.
Cool.
May sharing part, may praying part, sharing part, and then call to action. Okay.
Good.
Kaya kasi recently pa man lang inspired nga ni kang Year of St. Joseph na sabi kan sa tong mga obispo sa sendang pastoral letter na ite ad Josephum, go to Joseph. Kaya it's not really about the way, the different mga itong mga traditional way, kundi itong in a creative manner kung paano apodon ining mga tatay pagpaduman sa pagpasiling sa iya.
Very good yun na point out mo, Father. It's a creative way of forming people, and I do believe you're also training them to become future pastoral leaders. Sa experience mi man nga ni Digdi, it's not a confraternity of St. Joseph, but it's confraternity of St. Euthydeus, and they come here every Thursday, so they have the option pwede sila magsimba pagkaaga o pagkahapon every Thursday because that's the day allocated for St. Jude. Pero ining mga miyembro kang confraternity, sinda nangunyan ang mabalangibog kang devotion to St. Jude pagbaba nila sa BEC or sa SKK level. So in a way, ang SKK, aside from itong mga cluster leader nagtitripon sa Sabado for Bible sharing and of course Bible reflection and capacity building, it is also reinforced by ang spirituality nila sa baba. kay yung mga members kang confraternity. So, itong sinasabi mong creative ways of forming the heart, I think digdi na minalaw in creation of confraternities. And then, for example, in yung mga cluster leaders may man sa SKK, so more or less mga more than 50 na ang samuyang leaders. So imagine if you are able to deploy them sa grassroots, then um, pwede ta sigurong mabawas-bawasan itong 90% ka mga dahi niya to na aabot. And sabi nga ni Ken sa surat pastoral kan sa tuyang mga obispo sa Bicol, ang focus mo niyan is on the family. Ang family during the pandemic, ini ang naging locus kan gabos na formation, gabos na, yun, we consider them as the domestic church. And so, I think it's high time na ining confraternity, ining SKK, will highlight ang importansya kan pag-evangelize kan sa tuyang mga pamilya.
Going back to the talagang missionary efforts daw nga ni missionary efforts ni St. Paul, saka si St. Peter, talagang nag-evangelize talaga sila. Katong mga inot naman, mga households talaga ito. Household of Lydia, Aquila, Priscilla. Kaya duman talaga ang simbahan, ang concept ng simbahan talaga house church talaga siya, no? Domus Ecclesia. Ang puon talaga kaya before the church evolved into a church, ecclesia, it started with the oikos. Oikos, which is the home, the house. Kaya itong concept na nag-lockdown, nag-pandemic, ang gabos na mga pasyon, istasyon, station of the cross, pamili, dovina, etc. Puro centered on the family. Timing na talagang the movement is towards the core, ad intra. Hiniling niya to ang itong pamilya. Pero nga ni, sabi ko, dawa pamilya iyan, igwa pa manggiraray dyan nalilingawan. Na set aside na nasa gilid.
Iyo. Tama yung Father. Within the family nga ni, pwedeng igaman dyan mga napapasuhay-suhay. Siguro panahon ini para may masursi ang mga gusot-gusot, ang mga labot-labot sa pamilya. And also, Father, one current reality that is increasing talaga is yung domestic violence, for example. Igwaning rise of domestic violence because of the lockdown. Siyempre, naghihirilingan si mga pamilya dahil makaharali. And very alarming minsan ang nangyayari sa loob ng family if we do not address this as a church, as a local church. A lot of things are happening in the family that the family members can also be a threat to one another. Like for example, sa base duman sa sharing kan mga nagkakapirang youth school dito sa parokya, may rise of incest or harassment from within the family, for example. How do we address that? Are we capable of addressing that? Do we have a ministry for that?
Perhaps I would say these are old problems, old errors, but new names.
Parang intensified lang siya ang rate because of the lockdown.
As a biblical student, even during the time of St. Paul, it is already the problem in the first letter to the Corinthians. Because there are also incestuous relationship happening in the community, but the community seem to be see no evil, hear no evil. They are blinded. So St. Paul reprimanded them in the first letter to the Corinthians, really lambasted them that why are you tolerating, why are you eating meat before the idols, why are you tolerating this incestuous relationship? If one members of the community suffer, all suffers.
Yeah.
And when one rejoices, all rejoices. You have to address it as a community. So he lambasted them in the first letter to the Corinthians, but he changed his tone in the second letter to the Corinthians. And you know the reason why? Because Corinthians is a very wealthy community, and he had to appeal for fundraising. That's why, according to the biblical scholar, he changed his tone and he become a little bit diplomatic in the second Corinthians already. You see, St. Paul also know how to strategize. How to strategize. He addressed the problem, but a little bit he in a way toned down in order to help the poor of Jerusalem. You remember that collection, he was asking for collections to be sent to Jerusalem. And the first Corinthian community noted for their generosity despite the incestuous and immorality is happening there. That's why you know the term to Corinthianize means to fornicate. That's the meaning of to Corinthianize.
Parang culture na nila
Oh,
talaga.
culture, because it's a port city.
Holy
It's
smoke.
there in the. So therefore now, why did I transport you? Because you're historian.
Mhm.
You go there from the biblical history and you come to the present time. The same problem. So
True.
therefore, we have to empower also the family.
True.
Amoris Laetitia family,
Yeah.
according to Pope Francis, no?
No, kasi Father, I tried addressing this by, um, to provide a forum for kids, for example, who suffer the same fate. So we started, we attempted to establish yung Sincerely Youth, parang the young people can write us letters and we will find means of responding to them. So my social media platform, my Google Forms, and we asked the help of some volunteer psychologists. And then ulay mi itong simpleng mga ang issues like yung love life or yung how to address the module pressures and how to cope up with the sa parents. Pero my goodness, we were overwhelmed. But I cannot
With the
reveal
content of the letters.
the content of the letters. My goodness, in just one day, for example, we had 12 respondents, but the nature of the problem is not to be neglected. And mamundong maray ang magabaton na maray sa daghan na basahon na it is happening within the family. So this is not one case, but it is cases of like more than 10 cases.
But I would like to
Just one
congratulate you for another creative way. That
Yeah.
that letter writing, no? Um, um, and you're able to give the young people, the kids, an opportunity to express themselves. So at least to address their depression
Yeah.
or to address their pent-up emotions or the suppressed difficulties of expressing. That's a very creative
Yeah.
ministry.
So you provide them at least the forum. Ngunyan ang problema ni Father
So how do
Philip,
you address?
I had
how
to
do you
I had to
address?
cut the program kasi we have to manage their expectations. Kung ganun kalala ang problema, and then we promise solution by providing this forum, medyo na-alarm kami kasi sabi nga ni katong
You have the
psychometrician na nakaulay ko, yeah, sarap pa yan. Do you have the personnel? Are you equipped to
Are you
handle that?
specialized in to handle
Yeah.
those things?
And then the ethical implications of that. You cannot reveal them. We cannot talk about them.
And the legal ones,
forums.
the legal implications.
The legal
too.
implications of that. So, medyo tricky ang part na ni, but it's an unexplored, uncharted territory yet. I'm sure igwan ng programs ang ibang diocese for this. But I think at the local level, ang parish, what are we doing about these things? If we are not equipped, then probably we can ask the volunteers of our psychologists, for example. We are in the city, for example, and ang Ateneo, I think they have an army of psychologists. But how do we deal with this? How do we establish linkages? And yeah, sabi mo, we're talking about the 90%. Probably aside from the men who are not being tapped, who are not being the target of our evangelization process, probably we could also address the suffering youth. The suffering sector of our
But
society.
nice attempt, no? When you open that kind of although you have to put a you got a temporary
Yeah.
a close to the program because of the magnitude, no, of the perhaps you're opening
Responsibility.
you're opening a Pandora's
True.
box out of it, or that. But you see now that you are facing, it's just a tip of the iceberg. That perhaps there is really a kind of systemic problem within the family
That's
that
true.
needs to be addressed not only with the church but the non-governmental
Yeah.
organizations and other support or
Yeah.
groups that have. So I hope that with that kind of pre-taste of what is happening in the family, perhaps a kind of this can be addressed by the family ministry within the
Yeah.
within
True.
the
Sa
within
archdiocese.
church,
Oh.
archdiocesan level and the parochial level.
Ikaw pa kita itong office for KAUCC, the office for women and children.
Yes.
I don't know if it's women or children. I think it used to be run by Father Austin or Tinero.
Father Austin
But
Ortinero.
medyo he's
But
on
we have a
study
family
leave now.
ministry also
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
archdiocese. I think
But I think that that
I don't
office
know
was
if Father
created.
William or Father Joey is the
Yeah.
one
Father William Santiago,
in
I think.
Santiago.
Siguro we could refer to him. Consolidate all our resources, human resources, and of course financial, and then probably create a program na ma-address yun. So, yeah. So I think that could also serve as a way of celebrating the 500 years by looking into this, ministries na pwedeng makatabang sa mga
Because
kasalangitan.
our dear bishops pointed out that this is also the 5 years celebration of the at Amoris Laetitia.
Laetitia,
And the focus is Saint Joseph giving the Holy Family as a model, as a gift to us. But let us look at the family. What is happening in our family?
And Saint Joseph protected his own family.
Yes, Custos Redemptoris, no,
Yeah.
the protector of the Redeemer and protector of the Blessed
The Blessed Mother.
Uh, as a chaste spouse of the Blessed Mother. But if we look at our families today, who will protect our families? With, as you have said, you have an experience of children who are physically abused, emotionally abused, or sexually abused. So how do we address that? This is a silent menace. It is a silent menace.
Yeah.
In the family, there is no forum to talk about this. So how do we address this system, this
True.
problem?
Siguro yung forum muna, we find a suitable forum for that, and then also yung mga capable personals of handling that, and then yung nitty-gritty, yung the process itself has to be studied really kasi may mga legal implications. So it has to be really studied very well. And I think by making this surface, pagpaluwas kami niya na panahon, I think that could be a very meaningful way of celebrating 500 years, Father.
And I think I remembered our dear Archbishop Rolando Trierona about praying to be the pastor to be present to the young people who, when there was a spike of cases, suicide cases in our parish or in the archdiocese, that we have to teach the seriousness of this reality, but the availability of the pastor to address those who have mental health issues and those who are depressed. I remember that I think the Father Secretary has the Archbishop wrote a circular or a pastoral letter about this thing.
Yeah. In fact, sugma, nagpa-recollection ako sa mga parents ng First Holy Communion, and sabi ko sa inda is, remember that the Eucharist is a sacrament of presence. Ang mga you cannot be forever present, always or omnipresent sa mga akindo whenever they need you. And so, si Jesus will always be there for you. But also, ang role nindo as parents is to try your best to be present with these kids, because it is an accompaniment, a ministry of accompaniment. And masasanglian ang presensya nindo. So, pagtarabangan ta nga ko, pamilya, parents, the pastors, tarabangan ta ng aking ini, magdakula, dahil bakong pagkatapos kang First Holy Communion, si ama at si ina, dahil man nagsisimba. So, ano ang model na nire-reinforce mo? So, in the same way, ang pastor, for example, if the pastor cannot accompany people who are like suffering, like the marginalized, and then of course those who are undergoing harassment, so who will be there for them? So Saint Joseph can simply not be a poster boy for this year's celebration of the year of Saint Joseph, but I think we can actually imitate a lot of concrete virtues from him when he is the foster father of Jesus, but he was able to protect the Holy Family. Ang pagdarasan na sa Egypt, ang pag-OFW nila, to protect them from danger. And so, in the same manner, he's also the father of the Universal Church. He's the protector also of the Universal Church. And so, in the same manner, si Saint Joseph, tinatawag itong inspirasyon na proteheran ang mga membro kan sa tuyang simbahan.
And really, we are not lacking inspiration because Saint Joseph is really truly our model as the chaste spouse of the Blessed Mother, as the protector of Jesus, our Redeemer, and the protector of the universal church. But we can only protect the church if we are aware of the dangers surrounding the church and the family. And perhaps by reflecting on our blind spots, these areas of improvement, as we celebrate the 500 years, and as we reflect on and take cognizance not only of the 10%, but the 90% or outside of our parish or our community, the church. Now we are called to be sensitive to these signs of the times.
True.
And I'm not saying that I'm sure our dear parish priests and our fellow brother priests in the parish and in other institutions are discerning and are also doing creative ways of reaching out to the unchurched, because there are different strokes, for different folks. There are different ways of
dealing
with the challenge of the 500 years. So perhaps we can invite our dear parish priests and our dear fellow pastors to share their best practices and to share also ang mga creative ways nila sa parokya. We are just only two. We are only representatives, so we do not have the monopoly of ways and means and models.
Pero kita 93. We are 93 all in all.
Parishes. How many priests do we have now in the Archdiocese?
I think more than 200. I do not have the exact numbers.
Some of them are in the mission, abroad. So the missionaries, a different kind of missionary work also to be in that. Abroad.
So inimbitaran niya mo sa mo yung mga kapapadi na if you have best practices, may mga practices ka mo na of ways of evangelizing the 90% in church or the often neglected sector of our parishes. Let us know. We can talk about them. In the coming episodes, we have the whole month of March to talk about it. And then, of course, keeping in mind also these blind spots. We are also inviting you to, make your contribution on this. Probably also you already have the answer to some of these blind spots. And as more or less we have pointed out too, like itong pagmantener ni, as in pagmukna ning sincero, as in tunay na komunidad, as in empower kan sa tuyang mga laiko sa pagiging katuwang niyato sa tuyang pagmissionary. Let us know and we will be grateful. So, Father Philip,
inabot naman garo kita kan panahon kan oras, but I said we cannot do justice to the 500 years of Christianity for 1 hour of program, but
for 30 minutes.
This is just another teaser, another moment of discernment, and we are with Saint Joseph, who is really the model of discernment.
Okay, salamat Father Philip, and salamat giraray sa pag-iba sa samuya muna na episode.
Salamat.